Colleen Lavin from Particle. The IoT industry is filled with security horror stories. Tales of woe, tales of taken identities, and listened-in phone calls. They're stories that would keep you up all night, scarier than any movie I've ever seen. They are horror. They are awful. And one example of... Oh, wait, sorry. Sorry, I've got to take this. It's a text from my boss. The silly guy, he keeps forgetting his admin panel password, so he needs to use mine. Like, come on, dude. He needs to get his act together. I have never seen someone change phone numbers as often as this dude does. Anyway, back to security. Gather round for a tale of woe, a tale of horror.
It was 2013, a simpler time, but a time where we were still living in fear. Fear of one of the scariest things to anyone who runs a security program at a business. Email. Email is terrifying and scares us all. Email provides an avenue for phishing to occur. And phishing is exactly what happened to Target back in 2013. A third party of theirs was phished successfully, and that led to the compromise of around 40 million credit cards and 70 million customer records. A nightmare scenario, I'm sure you'll agree.
Oh man, that sounds scarier than going fishing with my dad. What's this sort of phishing mean?
Phishing in this case isn't about cod or salmon or other types of actual fish. It's about passwords and usernames and credentials for sensitive systems and invoicing portals.
It's terrifying!
Yes, it should be.
Well, what can we do to stop that? How can my customers not have to deal with something this awful?
Well, I'm glad you asked, the undead spirit of Colleen, because I will tell you. First of all, you should create a root account for the product owner in your Particle product. Least privilege is a security principle that's been around for a very long time. The root account should be the one that has the most access to your product and should not be the one that you use on a daily basis. This reduces the chances of it becoming phished and used maliciously. Separate humans from machines with API users. Not all things that appear human are human. That's why we recommend separating out humans from machines with API users. API users are very tightly scoped users on the Particle API that allow you to restrict what a machine can do against your product. This means if the machines ever rise up and go nuts, they can not do as much things that you would be able to do as a human logging into your Particle account. It's strongly recommended that you use API users as a service account where possible. Use a view-only account for daily monitoring. The view-only account role is great for simple fleet monitoring. As the name suggests, you can observe, but you can't touch the devices in a Particle product. This is a great solution for presenting the console on a TV in your security operations center, or just in your home.
Quarantine unrecognized devices. A device that you don't know is a risk, and a device that's added to a product will be able to download product firmware and trigger product webhooks. In order for a device to be given full access to product capabilities, the Particle Device Cloud must have a record of a given device being part of the product it is attempting to join. If it does not, the device is considered an unrecognized device and is not allowed in. Your product can be configured to handle unrecognized devices in two different ways: quarantine or auto-approve. We strongly recommend quarantine. This is the most secure and recommended option for handling unrecognized devices. Don't allow the imposters in. By default, unrecognized devices will be quarantined unless you override the settings in your product's config page. This is done to protect against potentially malicious actions and unrecognized devices.
Regularly audit your integrations. Integrations are, of course, the best way to get data off of your particle devices and into your own system. There are no limits to the number of integrations you can attach to a product. Putting on a malicious actor hat, the integration system would seem to be a good place to go should you be able to compromise a particle account somehow. A common technique used by malicious actors who compromise email accounts is to establish secretive forwarding rules to send sensitive emails to additional accounts under their control. Should they ever lose access to their primary target account, these rules go unnoticed for a very long time. Who checks the rules that are associated with their email account? Applying this threat model to Particle, we'd recommend routinely checking your integrations to make sure all of them can be accounted for at all times to prevent a nasty surprise. Behind the scenes, rest assured that we'll also be keeping an eye on things and running any webhook URLs that we see through our threat intelligence feeds automatically.
Set and monitor cellular data limits. For cellular products, you can set a SIM data limit to control costs on new or existing SIM cards in the fleet. We'll let you know via email when a device is approaching its limit, so you can choose an action to take. If no action is taken, a device will have its cellular service paused for the remaining duration of the billing period. This can impact device availability. Availability is a component of security and something worth mentioning here. Be sure to mark Particle as a trusted sender just in case notification emails end up being caught by your spam filter.
Using development devices for testing. As a firmware engineer building a Particle product, it's important that you can rapidly iterate on new device firmware while still simulating the behaviors of production devices deployed in the field. Development devices allow you to do just this. Another benefit of development devices is that they allow you to keep your firmware in your product without having to spin up a copy on a personal development account. For Particle customers who have greater concerns about intellectual property security, this is a great approach to firmware development. Respect customer privacy rights. When it comes to our direct customers, the people building on our platform, we have our own processes in place to make sure that we always do the right thing. You can read more about this in our privacy policy. For our indirect customers, the customers of our customers, we want to make sure that we provide you, as our customer, with the tools to help them do the right thing. If you're storing product customer information in Particle, be sure to integrate us in any of your privacy processes that you establish. The Particle Device Cloud API makes it straightforward to remove a customer from your Particle account should they request to be forgotten, for example. We recommend building and testing processes to remove customer records and any of the sensitive information collected that may tie a Particle device to your customers in the platform, in the event that they wish to exercise their rights.
Okay, that's all cool and all, but like, I work for a big company and we have a huge security team, so like, I don't have to care about this, right? Like, this is for other people, not me. I'm safe.
That's where you're wrong, Undead Colleen, because there are still some things that you should do, even if you have the world's biggest security team. There are still lots of threats out there that could impact you, such as teenagers who are bored. Here's some recommendations. Regularly audit who has access to your organization and product and their permission level and whether or not they have multi-factor authentication enabled. Enterprise users can take advantage of team role-based access controls that give users access to their entire organization, including all products in that organization. It's always worth sticking to that principle of least privilege when handing out access to team members. Only provide organizational access to humans. Keep the bots and API users at the product level to control access to each individual product function. Finally, you should always regularly review who has access to your Particle organization at both the org and product levels on a regular basis. You're only as strong as your weakest link, after all.
How can I tell who has multi-factor authentication enabled?
The Teams view will show you who in your organization does not have two-step authentication enabled.
Another thing you should do is use long-term supported versions of Particle Device OS. Many enterprises building and deploying mission-critical solutions with Particle value reliability over everything else. For those customers, Particle develops and releases long-term support, LTS, versions of Device OS that deliver consistent behavior and stable performance for device applications over extended periods of time. LTS releases for Device OS are independent branches of Device OS that are feature frozen in time. They do not receive updates with new features, API changes, or improvements that change the function or standard behavior of the device. LTS releases are, however, supported by an extended support window which addresses critical bugs, regressions, security vulnerabilities, and issues that affect our wider enterprise customer community.
Put a canary in your firmware. And no, I do not mean the small, cute yellow bird type of canary. I mean a canary token. A great way to get a heads up that someone unexpected may be exploring your firmware is a canary token, which is a secret that isn't really a secret. A canary token is a decoy value, such as an API key or an access token for an online service, that you can include in your firmware and then be notified if somebody discovers the token and attempts to use it. This is an excellent addition to any enterprise threat intelligence program and can give you early warning of a potential larger campaign against your company. canarytokens.org/generate is a tool that can be used to generate a canary token. Introduce yourselves. If your organization is building on Particle, the Particle security team is very likely a key component in your incident response plan. We'd love to meet you ahead of any potential incident and understand how we fit in. If we do this, the first time that we interact will be in much less of a stressful situation than the incident response, and it will allow us to develop any organizational specific response plans based on your needs. Please reach out through your customer success representative to set up an introductory call.
If you follow these steps, you are protected from malicious users and people who aren't who they say they are. If you have any questions about security, go to community.particle.io and make a post. To learn more about security with Particle, check out the Security Optimization Guide linked below. Stay safe out there, folks.